Listen up. Too many of you are out here giving your time, your energy, your focus to everybody but yourself. You're showing up for them. You're making sure they're good. You're bending over backward. But when it comes to you, you're running on empty. I need you to understand something. If you don't prioritize yourself, nobody else will. You keep thinking that if you just keep giving, one day somebody's going to give back to you. No, life doesn't work like that. You set the standard. You teach people how to treat you by the way you treat you. Some of you are drowning because you refuse to swim for yourself. You keep trying to save everybody else, but you're sinking in the process. You can't pour from an empty cup. I need you to wake up and realize that you matter. Your dreams matter. Your health matters. Your peace matters. You want success, you want happiness, you want fulfillment, then it starts with you. Stop waiting for permission to put yourself first. Stop feeling guilty for choosing you. You've been everybody's rock, everybody's backbone, everybody's shoulder. Now it's time to be your own. You've got one life, one. And every second you waste neglecting yourself is a second you'll never get back. If you don't fight for you, who will? If you don't bet on you, who will? If you don't make yourself a priority, who will? So today, right now, make a decision. You come first. Your dreams, your goals, your well-being. Because when you are at your best, that's when you can truly give your best to the world. Be your own priority. It's not selfish. It's necessary. Now go get it. You teach people how to treat you by how you treat yourself. This isn't just a catchy phrase. It's a fundamental truth that governs the way the world interacts with you. Every single day, with every action you take, every word you speak, and every decision you make, you are setting the standard for how others see you and how they believe they can treat you. It's not about what you say you deserve. It's about what you show you're willing to accept. When you prioritize your health, your time, and your peace, people notice. They see that you respect yourself enough to draw boundaries. They understand that your time isn't something to be wasted, that your energy isn't something to be drained for things that don't serve you. But when you neglect yourself, when you constantly put yourself last, when you allow people to overstep your boundaries, they learn that it's okay to treat you that way. You are, in effect, giving them permission to disrespect your time, your energy, and your worth. Think about it. If you're always the one saying yes to everything, even when you're exhausted, even when you're stretched thin, people will assume you're always available. They won't think twice before piling more on your plate because you've shown them that you'll take it, no questions asked. But if you start saying no when you need to, if you start protecting your time and energy like they're precious, which they are, people will begin to respect that. They'll learn that you have limits, that you value yourself enough to enforce those limits, and in turn, they'll adjust how they treat you. It's not just about the big things either. It's in the small, everyday choices. Do you make time for rest, or do you grind yourself into the ground thinking that's the only way to prove your worth? Do you speak kindly to yourself, or do you constantly criticize and belittle yourself in your own mind? Because here's the thing, if you're harsh with yourself, if you don't believe you deserve kindness, others will pick up on that energy. They'll see that you don't value yourself, and they'll mirror that back to you. Confidence isn't just about walking into a room with your head held high. It's about the silent message you send out with your actions. When you carry yourself with respect, when you take care of your mental and physical health, when you stand firm in your worth, you're telling the world, this is how I deserve to be treated. And trust me, the world listens. People can feel it when you know your value. They can see it in how you walk, how you talk, how you show up for yourself. On the flip side, if you're constantly bending over backward to please others at your own expense, you're teaching them that their needs matter more than yours. And that's a dangerous lesson, because it not only drains you, but it also attracts people who are more than happy to take advantage of that imbalance. You end up in relationships, friendships, and work situations where you're undervalued and overworked because that's the standard you've set. It's not about being arrogant or selfish. It's about having a healthy sense of self-respect. There's a difference between being considerate of others and completely sacrificing your own needs. You can be kind and still have boundaries. You can be giving without depleting yourself. But that balance starts with how you treat yourself. Look at successful people, not just in terms of money or status, but people who are genuinely fulfilled and happy. They know how to say no. They know when to step back and recharge. They prioritize their goals and dreams, and they don't let others derail them. That's not by accident. They've taught the people around them that their time is valuable, that their peace is non-negotiable, and that their goals matter. And because they've set that standard, others respect it. When you start treating yourself with the respect and care you deserve, you'll notice a shift. The people who truly value you will adjust. They'll respect your boundaries, they'll honor your time, and they'll support your growth. And the people who don't, they'll fall away, and that's okay, because the people who can't respect the standards you set for yourself don't deserve a place in your life. You are the first example of how the world should treat you. If you don't value your own time, why should anyone else? If you don't believe in your worth, why would anyone else? It starts with you. You can't expect others to give you what you're not willing to give yourself. If you want respect, show respect to yourself first. If you want love, give yourself love. If you want kindness, be kind to yourself. The way you talk to yourself matters. The way you care for your body matters. The way you protect your mental health matters. Because all of these things add up to one clear message: I matter. And when you believe that, truly believe it, the world has no choice but to believe it too. It's not about waiting for others to recognize your worth. It's about recognizing it yourself and letting that confidence radiate outwards. When you walk into a room, people can feel whether you respect yourself or not. It's in your posture, in your tone of voice, in the way you hold eye contact. You don't have to say a word. Your energy speaks for you. Start noticing how you treat yourself on a daily basis. Are you constantly overextending yourself for others while neglecting your own needs? Are you allowing toxic people to drain your energy because you're afraid of setting boundaries? Are you putting off your own dreams to help someone else achieve theirs? These are all signs that you're not prioritizing yourself, and in doing so, you're teaching others to do the same. It's not selfish to put yourself first. It's necessary, because when you are your best self, when you're rested, focused, and fulfilled, you can show up better for the people around you. You can give more because you're not running on empty. But it all starts with treating yourself with the respect you deserve. You don't need anyone else's validation to prove your worth. You don't need to wait for someone to tell you that you deserve to be treated well. You already do. But you have to believe it, and more importantly, you have to act like it. Every choice you make is a reflection of how much you value yourself. The world responds to the energy you put out. If you walk through life with your head down, accepting less than you deserve, people will give you exactly that, less. But if you walk through life knowing your worth, setting boundaries, and prioritizing your own needs, people will rise to meet that standard. They'll see that you're not someone to be taken for granted, that your time and energy are valuable, and they'll treat you accordingly. Remember, you are the blueprint. You are the example. The way you treat yourself sets the tone for how the world treats you. So make sure you're sending the right message. You can't pour from an empty cup. Prioritize your well-being. This is more than just a simple reminder. It's a truth that applies to every part of your life. Think about it. How can you give your best to your family, your friends, your career, your passions, if you're running on fumes? You're out here trying to take care of everyone else, trying to meet deadlines, trying to be everything to everybody, but you're neglecting the one person who matters most in this equation: you. When your cup is empty, you're not helping anyone. Not really. You're showing up half-hearted, exhausted, frustrated, and eventually you burn out. Let's get one thing straight. Taking care of yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. Society has convinced us that grinding ourselves into the ground, working non-stop, and always putting others first is the mark of dedication and success. But what's the point of success if you're too drained to enjoy it? What's the point of showing up for everyone else if you're falling apart inside? You think you're doing people a favor by constantly being available, by pushing past your limits, by saying yes even when your mind and body are screaming no, but in reality, you're giving them a watered down version of yourself. And that's not fair to them or to you. Imagine your energy like a bank account. If you keep making withdrawals without any deposits, eventually you're going to hit zero. And when that happens, you're not just broke, you're overdrawn. You're in the red, and it starts to affect every area of your life. Your health suffers, your relationships suffer, your work suffers. But when you take the time to replenish yourself, when you prioritize rest, when you nourish your body and your mind, you're making deposits. You're building up your reserves so that when it's time to give, you're giving from a place of abundance, not depletion. A lot of people think that taking time for themselves means they're slacking off or being lazy, but there's a difference between laziness and necessary rest. Rest is what refuels you. It's what allows you to come back stronger, more focused, more creative. When you're constantly running on empty, your mind gets foggy, your patience wears thin, and your productivity plummets. You might think you're getting more done by skipping breaks or pushing through exhaustion, but the quality of what you're doing suffers. You're not giving your best because you don't have your best to give. Your well-being isn't just physical, it's mental and emotional too. How many times have you ignored the signs that you need a break? How many times have you told yourself, I'll rest when I'm done, or I can't afford to slow down? But here's the truth, you can't afford not to slow down. When you ignore your need for rest, when you push your mental and emotional health to the side, it catches up with you. Stress builds up, anxiety creeps in. You start snapping at the people you love, losing motivation, feeling disconnected from your own life. And by the time you realize it, you're deep in burnout, wondering how you got there. Taking care of your well-being means being proactive, not reactive. Don't wait until you're completely burned out to start prioritizing yourself. Don't wait until your health is in crisis, your relationships are strained, or your motivation is gone. Start now. Build habits that support your well-being on a daily basis. It's in the small things. Getting enough sleep, eating nourishing food, moving your body, taking time to relax and recharge, setting boundaries with your time and energy, learning to say no when you need to, and giving yourself permission to rest without guilt. The guilt, that's a big one, isn't it? So many people feel guilty for taking care of themselves, like they're doing something wrong by putting their own needs first. But think about it. If you're not at your best, how can you be there for anyone else? If you're constantly exhausted and stressed out, what version of yourself are you bringing to your work, your relationships, your passions? Taking care of yourself isn't just for you. It benefits everyone around you. When you're well rested and mentally balanced, you're more patient, more creative, more present. You're able to show up fully, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally too. It's like being on an airplane. They always tell you, put your own oxygen mask on first before helping others. Why? Because if you pass out from lack of oxygen, you can't help anyone else. The same goes for life. If you're not taking care of your own well-being, eventually you won't be able to take care of anyone or anything else. You'll be running on autopilot, just going through the motions, and life will start to feel like a burden instead of a blessing. Prioritizing your well-being also means being honest with yourself about what's draining you. Are you in situations or relationships that constantly deplete your energy? Are you saying yes to things that don't align with your values or goals? Are you stretching yourself too thin trying to meet everyone else's expectations? It's okay to step back and reassess. It's okay to let go of things that no longer serve you. You don't have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. It's not your job to fix everything or be everything to everyone. Your first responsibility is to yourself. When you start prioritizing your well-being, you might notice some resistance, not just from yourself, but from the people around you. People who are used to you always being available, always saying yes, might not like it when you start setting boundaries. They might push back, try to guilt you, make you feel like you're doing something wrong. But that's their issue, not yours. You're not responsible for other people's reactions to your boundaries. You're responsible for your own health and happiness. And the people who truly care about you will respect that. They'll understand that taking care of yourself doesn't mean you care about them any less. It means you're ensuring that when you do show up, you're showing up fully and authentically. It's important to remember that prioritizing your well-being is an ongoing process. It's not something you do once and then forget about. Life is going to throw challenges at you, and it's easy to fall back into old habits of neglecting yourself when things get busy or stressful. But that's when it's most important to double down on self-care. When life gets overwhelming, that's not the time to push yourself harder. That's the time to step back, breathe, and make sure you're taking care of your own needs. Self-care isn't just about bubble baths and spa days, though those things can be great. It's about building a life that supports your well-being from the ground up. It's about creating routines and habits that nourish you physically, mentally, and emotionally. It's about surrounding yourself with people who uplift you, engaging in activities that bring you joy, and making time for rest and reflection. It's about knowing your limits and honoring them, even when the world is telling you to keep pushing. You deserve to feel good. You deserve to be healthy, happy, and fulfilled. But that doesn't just happen by accident. It happens when you make a conscious decision to prioritize your well-being. It happens when you stop waiting for the right time to take care of yourself and start doing it now, in the middle of the chaos, in the middle of the busyness. Because life isn't going to slow down for you. And if you keep waiting for things to calm down before you take care of yourself, you'll be waiting forever. Your well-being is the foundation for everything else in your life. When you're physically healthy, mentally clear, and emotionally balanced, you're able to pursue your goals with more energy and focus. You're able to connect with others on a deeper level because you're not weighed down by stress and exhaustion. You're able to handle challenges with resilience because you've built a strong foundation of self-care and self-respect. Taking care of yourself isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. You can't pour from an empty cup, and you can't give your best to the world if you're constantly running on empty. So start today. Make the decision to prioritize your well-being, not just for yourself, but for everyone and everything you care about. Because when you're at your best, you're able to give your best, and that's the greatest gift you can offer. Stop waiting for permission to put yourself first. Too many people live their lives on hold, waiting for someone to tell them it's okay to prioritize themselves, to chase their dreams, to set boundaries, or to take time for their well-being. They wait for approval from their family, their friends, their boss, or even society. But here's the truth. That permission slip you're waiting for is never coming. Nobody is going to hand you the green light to live your life on your terms. You have to decide right now that you are worthy of being your own priority. You have to take control of your life and stop looking outside of yourself for validation. It starts with recognizing that you are in charge. You don't need anyone else to approve of your choices for them to be valid. You don't need to explain or justify why you're putting yourself first. The only person who needs to understand your journey is you. But the problem is, we're conditioned from a young age to seek approval. We grew up in systems, family, school, work that reward us for following the rules, for being agreeable, for putting others' needs before our own. And while there's value in being considerate and respectful, it becomes a problem when you start living your life based on what others expect from you instead of what you want for yourself. You've got dreams, you've got goals, you've got things you want to achieve, experiences you want to have, a life you want to live. But if you're constantly waiting for someone to tell you it's okay to go after those things, you're going to be waiting forever. People are always going to have opinions. Some will support you, some won't. Some will understand your choices, and some will question them. But their opinions don't define your worth, and they certainly don't control your destiny. The only question you need to ask yourself is, what do I want? And once you have that answer, you go after it unapologetically. When you stop waiting for permission, you reclaim your power. You stop living reactively based on what others think or expect, and you start living proactively based on what aligns with your values and desires. That's when real growth happens. That's when you start seeing progress in your goals, feeling more fulfilled in your life, and experiencing a deeper sense of purpose. But it requires courage. It's not easy to go against the grain, to say no when people expect you to say yes, to choose a path that others might not understand. But that courage is what sets you free. Think about how much time you've wasted hesitating, second-guessing yourself, and seeking approval. How many opportunities have you passed up because you were waiting for someone else to give you the go-ahead? How many times have you held back from expressing your true self because you were worried about what people might think? Every moment you spend waiting is a moment you'll never get back. Life is too short to live on pause. You don't need anyone's permission to live fully, boldly, and authentically. Putting yourself first doesn't mean you're selfish. It means you recognize your own value. It means you understand that your time, energy, and dreams matter just as much as anyone else's. You have a right to pursue what makes you happy, to set boundaries that protect your peace, and to prioritize your well-being without feeling guilty. But as long as you're waiting for someone else to validate those choices, you're giving away your power. You're allowing others to dictate how you live your life, and that's no way to thrive. There will always be people who don't understand why you're making certain choices. They'll question why you're setting boundaries, why you're saying no to things that don't serve you, why you're investing time and energy into your passions instead of fitting into the mold they expect. But their confusion or disapproval isn't your problem to solve. You don't owe anyone an explanation for putting yourself first. The people who truly care about you will respect your choices, even if they don't fully understand them. And the people who don't respect those choices, they were never in your corner to begin with. Waiting for permission often comes from a place of fear. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of disappointing others. But fear is just a barrier, not a wall. You can move through it. The moment you stop letting fear dictate your decisions, you open yourself up to a world of possibilities. You realize that the only thing standing between you and the life you want is your willingness to step up and claim it. You don't have to be fearless to put yourself first. You just have to be willing to act in spite of your fears. Consider the people you admire, the ones who are living their truth, pursuing their passions, and making an impact. Do you think they waited for permission? Do you think they sat around hoping someone would tell them it was okay to chase their dreams? No. They made a decision to prioritize themselves, even when it was uncomfortable, even when people doubted them, even when it meant stepping into the unknown. They understood that waiting for permission was a trap, a way to stay stuck in the same place, living the same life with the same frustrations. And they refused to settle for that. You have that same power within you. You have the ability to decide right now that you're done waiting for the perfect moment, done waiting for everyone to approve, done waiting for the fear to go away. The perfect moment doesn't exist. And the longer you wait, the more opportunities pass you by. The truth is, life isn't going to slow down for you to catch up. You have to jump in, even if it feels scary, even if you're not 100% ready, even if people don't understand. It's not about being reckless or ignoring responsibilities. It's about recognizing that your needs, goals, and desires are valid and they deserve to be prioritized. It's about trusting yourself enough to make decisions that align with your values, even if those decisions go against what others expect. You are the author of your story, and it's time to pick up the pen and start writing it on your terms. The more you practice putting yourself first, the easier it becomes. You start to build confidence in your decisions, and you realize that you don't need external validation to know you're on the right path. You become more attuned to your own needs and desires, and you start to trust your intuition. And with that trust comes freedom. The freedom to live authentically, to pursue your passions unapologetically, and to create a life that reflects who you truly are. Stop waiting for permission to put yourself first. Nobody knows what's best for you better than you do. You don't need anyone else's approval to prioritize your well-being, chase your dreams, or set boundaries that protect your peace. The only person who needs to give you permission is staring back at you in the mirror. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner you can start living the life you were meant to live. Every day you wait is a day you're not living to your full potential. Every time you hold back because you're worried about what someone else will think, you're dimming your own light. But you weren't meant to play small. You weren't meant to live your life according to someone else's script. You have a unique purpose, a unique voice, and a unique path, and it's up to you to honor that. So stop waiting, stop hesitating, stop looking for approval from people who don't understand your journey. Take ownership of your life, make yourself a priority, and move forward with confidence. You are worthy, you are enough, and you don't need anyone's permission to put yourself first. Boundaries are not barriers, they are bridges to self-respect. So many people hear the word boundaries and immediately think it means shutting people out, building walls, or being cold and distant. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Boundaries aren't about keeping people away. They're about protecting your energy, your time, your peace, and your mental well-being. They're about defining what's acceptable and what's not in your relationships, your work, and your daily life. Without boundaries, you lose control over your own life. You end up saying yes when you mean no, overcommitting and stretching yourself thin until you're exhausted, frustrated, and resentful. Setting boundaries isn't about being rude or selfish. It's about being honest with yourself and others about what you need to thrive. It's about recognizing your limits and respecting them. When you set boundaries, you're telling the world, I value myself enough to protect my peace. And that's powerful. Because when you don't have boundaries, you're giving other people permission to dictate how you live your life. You're allowing their needs, their demands, and their expectations to take precedence over your own well-being. Think about how often you've agreed to something you didn't want to do just to avoid conflict or because you felt guilty. How many times have you stayed late at work when you were already exhausted, answered that call when you needed a break, or put someone else's needs ahead of your own at the expense of your mental health? Every time you do that, you're sending a message, not just to others, but to yourself, that your needs don't matter as much, and over time that chips away at your self-respect. You start to feel drained, unappreciated, and overwhelmed because you're constantly giving more than you have to give. Boundaries are how you reclaim your time, your energy, and your sense of self. They're how you ensure that you're living a life that aligns with your values rather than being pulled in a million directions by other people's expectations. When you set a boundary, you're not saying, I don't care about you. You're saying, I care about me enough to make sure I'm not compromising my well-being. And here's the thing, when you respect your own boundaries, you teach others to respect them too. You show people how you expect to be treated, and you create relationships based on mutual respect and understanding. But setting boundaries isn't always easy. It can be uncomfortable, especially if you're not used to putting yourself first. You might worry about how people will react, whether they'll be upset or disappointed. And yes, some people might push back when you start asserting your needs, especially if they're used to you always saying yes. But their reaction isn't your responsibility. Your responsibility is to yourself, to your peace, and your health and your happiness. The truth is, the people who genuinely care about you will respect your boundaries. They'll understand that setting limits doesn't mean you care about them any less. It means you're taking care of yourself so you can show up fully in your relationships. And the people who don't respect your boundaries, they're showing you who they are. They're showing you that they were more interested in what you could do for them than in your well-being. And that's important information to have because it helps you decide who deserves a place in your life and who doesn't. Boundaries aren't just about saying no to others. They're also about saying yes to yourself. They create space for you to focus on what truly matters to you. When you set boundaries around your time, you free up space to pursue your passions, to rest, to spend time with the people who uplift you, and to engage in activities that nourish your soul. When you set boundaries around your energy, you protect yourself from people and situations that drain you, and you create room for positivity and growth. Boundaries are also essential for maintaining mental and emotional health. Without them, stress and resentment build up. You start to feel like you're being pulled in too many directions, trying to meet everyone else's expectations while neglecting your own needs. This can lead to burnout, anxiety, and even depression. But when you have clear boundaries, you create a buffer that protects your mental health. You're able to manage your stress better, maintain a sense of balance, and approach life with more clarity and focus. Setting boundaries is an act of self-love. It's about recognizing that you deserve to be treated with respect, not just by others, but by yourself. It's about honoring your own needs and giving yourself permission to prioritize your well-being. This isn't always easy, especially if you've been conditioned to believe that putting yourself first is selfish or wrong. But the reality is, you can't pour from an empty cup. If you're constantly giving to others without replenishing yourself, you're going to run out of energy, patience, and motivation. One of the biggest challenges in setting boundaries is overcoming the guilt that often comes with it. You might feel guilty for saying no to a friend who needs help, for turning down extra work when your boss asks, or for taking time for yourself when there are other responsibilities waiting. But guilt is just a sign that you're stepping out of your comfort zone, not that you're doing something wrong. It's a natural response when you start prioritizing yourself in a way you're not used to. The key is to recognize that guilt and keep going anyway. Over time, as you see the positive impact boundaries have on your life, that guilt will fade. Boundaries also teach you to communicate more effectively. When you set clear limits, you're forced to be honest about your needs and to express them in a way that others can understand. This can be challenging, especially if you're not used to advocating for yourself, but it's a skill that gets easier with practice. And the more you practice, the more confident you become in asserting your needs without feeling defensive or apologetic. In addition to improving your relationships with others, boundaries also strengthen your relationship with yourself. They help you develop a deeper sense of self-awareness because you have to get clear on what you need, what you value, and what you're willing to tolerate. This self-awareness leads to greater self-respect because you're consistently acting in alignment with your values and honoring your own needs. Boundaries also create a sense of freedom. It might seem counterintuitive, but when you have clear limits in place, you actually feel more liberated. You're no longer tied down by other people's expectations or weighed down by commitments you don't want to make. You have the freedom to choose how you spend your time and energy, and that's incredibly empowering. Instead of feeling obligated or trapped, you feel in control of your own life. Another important aspect of boundaries is that they help you avoid unnecessary conflict. When you're clear about your limits from the start, you prevent misunderstandings and miscommunications down the line. People know what to expect from you, and you know what to expect from them. This clarity leads to healthier, more respectful interactions because everyone is on the same page. And when conflicts do arise, having boundaries in place makes it easier to navigate them because you're grounded in your own values and priorities. Boundaries also give you the space to grow. When you're constantly overcommitted and overwhelmed, there's no room for personal development or self-improvement, but when you set boundaries, you create the time and energy to invest in yourself. Whether it's learning a new skill, pursuing a passion, or simply taking time to reflect and recharge, boundaries give you the space you need to grow into the best version of yourself. Ultimately, boundaries are about living with integrity. They're about aligning your actions with your values and ensuring that you're living a life that feels authentic and fulfilling. When you set boundaries, you're making a powerful statement. I matter. My needs matter. My well-being matters. And that's a message that not only transforms your life, but also inspires others to do the same. Boundaries are not barriers. They are bridges to self-respect. They connect you to your true self, to your values, and to the life you want to create. They allow you to build relationships based on mutual respect, to protect your mental and emotional health, and to live a life that feels true to who you are. So don't be afraid to set boundaries. Embrace them as a powerful tool for self-care, self-respect, and personal growth. Your growth is your responsibility, and nobody else can do it for you. Too many people sit back and wait for life to hand them opportunities, for someone to guide them step by step towards success, or for circumstances to magically align in their favor. But the truth is, if you want to grow, if you want to improve, if you want to become the best version of yourself, it's on you to make it happen. No one is coming to push you, to motivate you, to drag you out of bed in the morning and force you to chase your dreams. It's up to you to take ownership of your life, to commit to your goals, and to put in the work every single day. Growth doesn't happen by accident. It's intentional. It requires effort, consistency, and a willingness to step out of your comfort zone. You can't expect to grow if you're doing the same things, thinking the same thoughts, and surrounding yourself with the same influences that keep you stagnant. Growth demands that you challenge yourself, that you face discomfort, that you embrace failure as a learning opportunity instead of a reason to quit. It's about looking in the mirror and being honest about where you are, where you want to be, and what it's going to take to bridge that gap. Nobody else knows your dreams like you do. Nobody else feels the fire inside you, the desire to achieve more, to be more, to live more fully. And because of that, nobody else can take responsibility for your growth. People might support you, encourage you, or offer advice, but at the end of the day, it's your life. You're the one who has to put in the hours, who has to make the sacrifices, who has to push through the hard days when motivation runs dry. Waiting for someone else to take the lead is just another way of avoiding responsibility for your own potential. Growth is not a straight path. It's messy, unpredictable, and often uncomfortable. But that discomfort is where the magic happens. When you push yourself beyond what you thought was possible, when you face challenges head on instead of shying away, you discover strengths you didn't know you had. You learn resilience, discipline, and determination. You realize that you are capable of more than you ever imagined. But none of that happens if you're not willing to take responsibility for your journey. It's easy to blame external factors for where you are in life, your circumstances, your upbringing, the people around you, or the opportunities you didn't get. But blame is a distraction. It keeps you stuck in the same place, focused on what's out of your control instead of what you can control. The moment you stop blaming and start taking ownership is the moment you reclaim your power. You might not be responsible for everything that's happened to you, but you are responsible for how you respond, how you move forward, and how you choose to grow from it. Growth is also about discipline. Motivation comes and goes, but discipline keeps you moving forward even when you don't feel like it. It's easy to work hard when you're excited, when everything is going well, and when you've seen progress. But what about the days when you're tired, when things aren't going as planned, or when you hit a plateau? That's when discipline kicks in. That's when you remind yourself that growth is a long-term commitment, not a quick fix. It's about showing up every day, doing the work, and trusting the process, even when the results aren't immediate. Personal growth requires you to be intentional with your time and energy. You can't expect to evolve if you're wasting your days on things that don't serve your goals or align with your values. Every decision you make, every habit you form, and every action you take either brings you closer to your potential or pulls you further away from it. You have to be mindful of how you spend your time, who you surround yourself with, and what you feed your mind. Growth doesn't happen in the comfort zone. It happens when you're willing to make conscious choices that support your development. One of the biggest obstacles to growth is fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown. But fear is a natural part of the process. It's a sign that you're stepping into new territory, that you're pushing beyond your current limits. The goal isn't to eliminate fear, but to move forward in spite of it. Every time you face your fears, you build confidence and resilience. You prove to yourself that you're capable of handling challenges, and that builds momentum for even greater growth. Taking responsibility for your growth also means being willing to fail. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of the journey. Every setback, every mistake, every obstacle is an opportunity to learn and improve. When you shift your perspective and see failure as feedback instead of defeat, you remove the fear associated with it. You start to embrace challenges as necessary steps on the path to becoming your best self. Growth is messy, and that's okay. It's not about being perfect. It's about being persistent. Growth is also about self-awareness. You can't improve if you don't know where you need to grow. That requires honest reflection, a willingness to look at your weaknesses, and the humility to admit when you need to change. It's easy to focus on your strengths and ignore the areas where you struggle, but real growth happens when you confront those struggles head on. It's about asking yourself tough questions, being honest about your habits and mindset, and being open to feedback from others. You also need to be patient with yourself. Growth doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process that requires time, effort, and consistency. There will be times when you feel like you're not making progress, when the results don't match the effort you're putting in. But growth isn't always visible in the moment. Sometimes it's happening beneath the surface, in the small changes, in the shifts in mindset, in the quiet moments when you choose to keep going even when it's hard. Trust that the work you're doing is building a foundation for future success. Surrounding yourself with people who support your growth is also important. While your growth is your responsibility, having a community that encourages and challenges you can make a huge difference. Seek out mentors, friends, and peers who inspire you, who push you to be better, and who hold you accountable. But remember, even with a strong support system, it's still on you to take action. No one else can do the work for you. Growth requires you to let go of excuses. It's easy to come up with reasons why you can't achieve your goals. Lack of time, lack of resources, past failures, but excuses only hold you back. When you take full responsibility for your growth, you stop making excuses and start finding solutions. You focus on what you can do instead of what you can't. You find ways to overcome obstacles, to adapt when things don't go as planned, and to keep moving forward no matter what. Another key aspect of growth is staying curious and open-minded. The world is constantly changing, and there's always something new to learn. When you approach life with a mindset of curiosity, you're more likely to seek out new experiences, to challenge your beliefs, and to expand your understanding. Growth happens when you're willing to explore, to ask questions, and to remain open to new ideas and perspectives. Taking responsibility for your growth also means setting clear goals and creating a plan to achieve them. It's not enough to just want to improve. You need to have a vision for what you want and a roadmap for how to get there. Break your goals down into actionable steps, track your progress, and adjust your approach as needed. Stay focused on your long-term vision, but also celebrate the small wins along the way. Every step forward, no matter how small, is a sign of progress. Ultimately, growth is a lifelong journey. There's no final destination, no point where you can say, I've arrived. There's always more to learn, more ways to improve, and more opportunities to evolve. Embracing this mindset keeps you motivated and inspired to keep pushing yourself, to keep striving for better, and to never settle for less than your full potential. Your growth is your responsibility, and when you take ownership of that, you open the door to endless possibilities and a life of purpose, fulfillment, and success.